When you've been online for many, many years, you eventually build up a crowd of people that really enjoy your content. But you also build up a equally fervorous amount of people that genuinely hate you. Regardless of reality or the passage of time, people will hold grudges forever. Petty, small people who just can't get on with their lives, who can't decide, hey, I'm just going to not watch their content. Over the years, you'll generate people who are petty, like the moment you upload videos, they hit the dislike button because they feel like they're sticking it to you. By the way, please remember to like this video. There are people, as I've experienced, small groups, vocal minorities, who will petition every single sponsor you have and sometimes be victorious in getting them to deplatform you or to remove a sponsorship. And they'll say things like, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences, as a cover to deflect just how petty and pathetic their lives really are. Now, when you are an online personality, let's take me, for example, with thousands of videos across multiple YouTube channels over a decade. I'm sure there are many things that I've said that are both incorrect, outright offensive, and things I might regret saying or that I would say differently 10 years later. Like with Vic Mignogna, the host of Sword and Scale has a history of this. Mike Boudet has made some people mad over the years, and he has also done some questionable things, evidence of which, to me, is all extraordinarily minor. Things like what appear to be jokingly saying, heh, send nudes, to arguing with their fans. To me, Mike seems to have a bit of an ego. I don't know him personally, but he runs a very popular true crime podcast, which used to be on the Wondery Network or hosted via Wondery Media. And over the past year or so, has had to deal with SJW hate mobs constantly barraging his sponsors into getting him dropped and constantly barraging Wondery Network to drop his show. Now, they could watch literally anything else, but they can't do that because they are petty. They are crabs in a bucket, like I've said very many times, right? The story goes with crabs in a bucket. People will ask a fisherman, why don't you put a lid on these buckets of crabs you have? Well, they don't have to, because the crabs inside the bucket are always pulling down the ones that might try to escape. You see this personified in many in the social justice outrage mob culture. People who are deeply unhappy with their own lives want others to be unhappy too. So we saw just the other day Wondery Media posting, we have decided to part ways with Mike Boudet and Sword and Scale. Now, you see some supporters here unsubscribing from all Wondery content, absolute outrageous and ridiculous. Then you see pathetic, sad individuals, and you'll get the same thing where people say, oh, I haven't been a customer of yours forever, but now I'm totally going to be your customer. They're all liars. We all know the social justice crowd doesn't have any money for the most part, and they like to throw that around by saying, oh, I'm totally was going to buy your trade coffee, for example, your $14 bags of premium coffee, but I live in an apartment with 7 roommates and 1 bathroom, but now I'm totally not, because Jeremy makes fun of virtue signaling, as an example. But you see people saying things like 3 years too late. You see everyone, happy, extraordinarily happy to celebrate someone else being deplatformed. Now, Sword and Scale, when you're a podcast, you can continue to exist. Now, many fans of the show have reached out to me looking for the typical amount of fire and brimstone from me, but Mike isn't reacting well to this either, tweeting out that the show is over and, everything is over, life is over as he knows it kind of thing. I think maybe he's similar to me. He's reactionary. He's emotional. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. And I can kind of relate to that. It's not over. The show has like 14,000 patrons. So, he's probably got close to $100,000, coming in Patreon money. He can go get new sponsors. I have sponsors that sponsor me that don't care about social justice. For the most part, you can find people like this. Hell, mobile games will sponsor just about anybody if you want to. If you're willing to do a mobile game ad, you can get that money. But you see, people are so happy that the guy's been deplatformed, but I really don't see a lot. Ultimately what it was, the final nail in the coffin, was a post he did on International Women's Day. And like I said earlier, when you have a group of losers that follow you around, everything you do, you pick up a few more, a few more, a few more. Now, when you've been doing something for 5 years, now it's a couple hundred. And that becomes like a loud voice when they talk to your sponsors. And ultimately, on International Women's Day, he posted, "I don't understand dumb see you next Tuesdays. Maybe I should take one apart to see how it works. It's a joke. It's a joke." On Friday, which was also International Women's Day, Boudet wrote in a now deleted Instagram post, Wondery has declined comment when the Wrap asked about the post on Friday. It did not immediately respond to a request for confirmation that Friday's post was the reason for cutting ties with them. Of course it was. Now, the good folks over at Cow have categorized, been following this for some time, and he has done some stupid stuff before. There was a situation where a fan said something like, a fan tweeted him saying, if anything ever happens to me, please make sure that Boudet covers it on Sword and Scale. He then tweeted that she died of mild heart disease. Now, the internet took this. Okay, so she tweeted, she's a bigger girl, but, whatever. If anything ever happens to me, please make sure he covers that on Sword and Scale. He replies, and she died of mild heart disease and a high cholesterol diet. You probably shouldn't dump on your fans. At worst, you're calling a fan fat, which, whatever, she is out of shape. But at best, it was just a bad joke. Like, he was trying to say, hey, most people die from this, so whatever. He puts out an apology. My comment was in no way intended as body shaming, but I can easily see how it appeared that way. I tried to PM the listener, explain and apologize, but she understandably blocked me. So I'll leave it here. I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. I didn't mean to do so. I regret, and you can see once I started getting attacked, I lashed out and doubled down. I regret this also. I hate this aspect of my character, and a lot of you are indeed correct that I should, quote, do better. I'm going to be taking some time off social media. I don't think it's beneficial to me, the show, or Wondery for me to be engaging with listeners directly. Is probably not wrong. I've, had some issues where maybe I've had a few drinks and I'm online and I say something stupid. Fortunately, I don't have corporate sponsors to necessarily worry about. You see here on Sword and Scale, some girl texted the show saying like, hey, thanks for covering this story. It was really important to me. And he replies, dang, is everyone in that town insanely beautiful? So what? Like a lot of this stuff is not a big deal. But again, over the years, it gets piled up, and people, put it all together in a nice Imgur file and send it to sponsors, and sponsors see this thing, and of course they have to react. And so you have one of the guys here, and from what I can tell, Mike is also guilty of throwing shade at other shows. Again, not cool, but also who cares? Here's what I'll say about Sword and Scale guy blaming me for his podcast going away. After this, I'm moving on. First, I don't listen to his show, so it's never been about his show. He works hard. I'm sure the production value is amazing. I've never attacked his show. Second, if you don't like what he says, just block him. But I blocked him months ago. Despite that, he still somehow reads my timeline and tweets about me. I never sought him out. Other people sent me screenshots, and if they're offensive, I comment. In the last few months, he's become more aggressive. That's led to hundreds and hundreds of people complaining to the network that published his podcast. So today, his network decided it was a better option to not give him a home, so they cut ties. Here's the key. His podcast is independent, published by himself alone, long before he joined that network, and he has an enormous amount of support on Patreon. This is another thing. A lot of people who have critiques for people will talk about how much money they make. That is veiled jealousy, all right? Who cares if he has 14,000 patrons? At one point, I've seen numbers that he has 8 or 9 people working on the show, managing the blog, managing things, this or that. I don't know if that's true, but that's what has been said. So that money gets split a long way. Oftentimes, for example, when I raised the money for exclusivelygames.com, which you should definitely check out today after the show, it was like $140,000 total or something like that. And people were like, oh my God, it's so much money. First of all, $40,000 of that went to buying T-shirts and everything else to pay off the bat. A lot of people bought T-shirts. You've got to pay for those T-shirts. You've got to ship those T-shirts. And also, don't forget, you've got to pay 40% tax, okay? So $140,000, while amazing, really is more like 60 or 70, which is also amazing. But people get obsessed with other people's money, which is a really pathetic thing to do. And then you see the typical SJW line. This is not a free speech issue, no matter how many times he or his listeners bang that drum. Free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. All you need to do to expose yourself as an idiot is to use that line. I mean, it's pathetic. And you see this boycott stuff has been going on for years. This is all the way back in April of last year, almost a full year ago. Again, Sword and Scale, a true crime success story. The bi-weekly podcast hosted by Mike Boudet has over 1 million downloads in the first year, regularly ranked on the top of iTunes charts in a post-serial true crime podcast obsession society. Yes, this was a big push a while ago, but I guess it has kind of tapered off. If you were a listener, and you see, here's the big nudes issue. Oh, it won't let me post a picture, but I found a great Valentine's Day one for the page. Dang it. Message me at Mike at Sword and Scale. Also include naked pics in the attachment. That's a joke. That's a joke. Probably shouldn't make that joke. But a joke that, like, I would probably make too. Probably not towards a female fan, though. Just, you got to be a little... yeah, you got to know everything's getting screenshot. And again, this dang, is everyone beautiful from that town? I don't know. I mean, these are really not a big deal. Again, this is what happens. You see an article, you've got 3 out of context tweets, over 1 million, over years and years and years and years. Here are people DMing Casper to get rid of Casper, which is a mattress firm. People will follow this guy forever, and it's pathetic, regardless of his gaffes over the years. Wondery dropping Sword and Scale. I hope that Mike calms down a little bit and realizes that he can rebuild. I mean, you have 14,500 people giving you money every month or every episode. That's amazing. Amazing. Don't be a beta. No, just kidding. Don't. I know you're emotional, but you have an enormous amount of fans. You can rebuild. At the end of the day, it's a podcast. You might have to let some people go, which sucks, but you've got to, instead of feeling sorry for yourself, get out there, find sponsors that will sponsor the show and not care about this. Again, losers will think getting you off Wondery is some sort of victory. It's not. You can produce the show. You can put it out on your own. You can still put it out on iTunes, from what I understand, and all the other Stitchers and all the other places people want to get your podcast. Don't take it out on your existing fans. Social justice warriors are pathetic, but I support you. You have my... I don't see any evidence that says you're a horrible person. I see you're an emotional one. Perhaps you've got a bit of an ego. Things we can all be guilty of. But remember, the fans that are out there, use this to rally fan support. Get people to back you more on Patreon. Get that going. Secure this time of when your fans are stepping up. Remember to thank your fans for defending you. Get them to double, triple down on their Patreon, and then take a month or two to rebuild. Find new sponsors. It's going to be okay. Remember, don't stoop to the loser's level. Good luck, Mike and Sword and Scale fans of the show. It sucks to hear, but I wish you the best. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.